Welcome to Lebanon, Ohio, where we're in day 2 of pool play in the World Flying Disc Federation 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships, where Shinshu Loose out of Japan is taking on Mulatto Pilipinas from the Philippines. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. And Ian, both of these teams have some international experience and have had some success so far in the tournament.
That's right. Both of these teams sitting in strong positions in their pool. We're looking at mixed pool D right now, the top of the pool, the Canadian team Anchor. Mulatto Pilipinas sitting right behind them in second place. Both of those teams are 2-0. They're just separated by goal differential there. They will face off later in the week. Behind them is Marvelous DC from New Zealand and Shinshu Loose, one of the opponents here in our game today. Both of those teams are 1-1, sitting in the 3 and 4 spots, separated by goal differential as well. And rounding out the bottom of Pool D, we've got Argentina Ultimate Club and Hong Kong Neon.
And Shinshu Loose, this is not their first time to compete in the United States. Last year, they attended the U.S. Open that was held in Minneapolis. They did go 2-5, but had some very, very close games even in those losses.
Yeah, their results were encouraging for a team making a huge trip to compete against top international competition. They took Worlds qualifier Slow White to 13-15. They took U.S. National Champion Seattle Mixtape to 8-15. They took Noise, another team, to 13-15. Metro North to 12-15. Mischief 13-15. So this team knows how to hang with some of the top talent around the world.
And then Mulatto Pilipinas, they won the 2017 Asia Oceanic Ultimate and Guts Championship and are a pretty known figure in that Asian ultimate scene.
Yeah, they've had some roster challenges coming into this tournament, so that same squad that won may not be the same squad here on the field. A number of players having visas denied as they applied to make their travel arrangements to come here and compete at the tournament, but they've got some fantastic pickups from the Philippines and elsewhere that are topping the stat sheet and making them be competitive here in Pool D.
And different players to look out for. We saw on the screen number 21 from Shinshu Loose, Satomi Sumiya. She's one of the captains and one of the handlers that are back. And Shinshu Loose, at the U.S. Open at least last year, they ran a really interesting vertical stack that without a second handler, they would cut from the front to get a lot of those handler cuts moving.
That's a very traditional Japanese stack, and there are even a lot of American club teams that have started to adopt that style. I think the philosophy there is opening up the space in the backfield so there's no second defender there to clog the throwing lanes. Make those resets that are always gaining yardage upfield. You're never losing yardage or settling for anything. It's a very aggressive philosophy, and it's proven to have some success across divisions.
So, very exciting game ahead for us today. And the Sumiya getting a little excited seeing herself on the Jumbotron here at Lebanon Sports Complex, one of the showcase fields. We have 2 fields going on right now, live streaming to the WIFDIF channels as well as the Olympic channel.
So just to clarify here, we've got Shinshu Loose in white from Japan getting set to receive. Mulatto Pilipinas in yellow with the blue shorts will pull and start on defense to start the game.
So coming right out into that vertical stack, there's Sumiya. Some quick dishes under Yuri Fuji. Hirai, far sideline. Up the line, Yuka Sakai looking to the end zone right off the bat. There's a score right away. Shin Oike was right there for the goal.
And Yuka Sakai has been on fire for this Shinshu Loose squad. After yesterday's competition, she was leading the team, finished the day with 2 assists and 3 goals, an integral part of their offense.
And wonderful continuation then from Oike to get that first point on the board and using a lot of efficiency as well on offense.
No surprises there from that vertical stack structure. We saw them continuing to push up field, attack the front of the stack. Be interesting to see what adjustments Mulatto Pilipinas makes as they defend against that stack as this game progresses.
And Mulatto Pilipinas has kind of an interesting name, being called mulatto. Sometimes has a negative connotation in other cultures, but for them, they don't see that as a negative at all.
Absolutely. They view it as an opportunity to welcome other players, other competitors, other people in their region, in their country, to mix with them. They take pride in the ability to mix with other people when they party, when they play Ultimate at fun tournaments. So they've really, as you mentioned, taken a term that can sometimes be construed as a racial slur and reappropriated it to something that is a welcoming and encouraging term that inspires fun in their Ultimate community.
So they will take it up to the brick mark. The Philippines certainly being one of the biggest melting pots in the world. So many cultures there. Checked in. Francisco, near sideline. Shoots one-on-one in the end zone. And trailing edge catch. It takes one pass to score. That's Gene Tuvia.
And those are the two mainstays of this Mulatto Pilipinas offense. Antonio Francisco leading the entire pool in scoring coming into today. 8 assists and 4 goals, finding Jean, better known as Kyra Tuvia. She was an absolute terror on the beach at the World Championships of Beach Ultimate in Dubai back in 2015. Led her team in scoring. A nightmare for anyone to match up with downfield.
And Exhibit A, right away, as the disc was floating to the left, still catching it. So quick points from both teams to start the game. Overcast here in Lebanon. Forecast of rain later today. Loose picking up. Sumiya. Over to Sakai. It's up the line, Honda. And Honda to Kentaro Izumi. And pretty much in a very similar fashion as the first score. Loose getting another point on the board.
Once again, we just see Shinshu Loose attacking that force side. No problems being stuck on the trap sideline. They're just attacking with these mid-range strike cuts and mid-range deep cuts off the stack. I'd love to see the Philippine defenders do a better job of protecting that front cone, especially on those mid-range shots. And we saw Honda with the assist there. He was another leading offensive production tool for Shinshu Loose in their first day of competition yesterday. He also finished the day with 3 assists and 2 goals.
Honda definitely a mainstay. Ikihiro Kuriki to pull. And Shinshu, of course, is the city where Loose is based out of in the northern part of Japan.
Yeah, they're in a really interesting location. They're about an hour south-southeast by car from Nagano, but they're also 3 hours west-northwest of Tokyo as we see this deep shot go up.
And it's hanging and blocked away from Takashi Harumoto. Both players reading it so well, but Harumoto really getting ups. And Loose with an opportunity to break, but moving a little too quickly. Pilipinas back on offense. That's a straight shot to the end zone. And Mulatto is able to maintain their offensive hold. That was Manguera with the score.
Once again, Kyra Tuvia getting involved as well with that nice inside-out shot to the end zone. As we get another look, Shinshu loose had a break opportunity, couldn't quite get things going off their own end zone, and then the stall count rising. A nice outside-in shot to the inside-out lane from Tuvia.
So we are tied at 2 apiece in this first half, trading points either way. Thank you to anyone in the home countries who are tuning in. It is 11 past midnight in Tokyo and Shinshu right now. So if you're up in the middle of the night, thanks for tuning in, or if you're watching in the middle of the day as well. Hirai to receive the pull to Ogasawara.
Some junk here from the Philippine defense, trying to mix up their looks, force the Shinshu loose out of that vertical stack that was having so much success in the first few offensive points of this game.
Hirai looking deep, but instead loose working it underneath these short passes.
And you hear the transition, both teams shouting instructions.
Still on the goal line, loose having to do a little bit different approach on offense, but their short passes really play to their strength. Just shy of the end zone. Looks to swing over Sumiya. And with the strike cut, that is a score. Ogasawara straight for the goal.
That's textbook end zone, red zone offense there. Great patience, lots of dumping and swinging, clear fakes to move the mark and open up those break side swings, continuations as those swings went up. That was a clinic from the Shinshu loose offense, and they did not appear to be phased either by the zone look that the Philippines initially threw or the man-to-man, person-to-person defense in the red zone.
And the zone look really forces a team to throw a lot of shorter passes with lots of fakes and quick looks that way, but that seemed to really play to the strength of the loose team. So we are now still on serve, 3-2, no breaks so far in the first half. Pilipinas now with 3 handlers back, but in a vertical stack, cutting off of the front. Maybe taking a play from their Japanese opponent. Centering back into the middle of the field.
This Philippine stack is quite deep out of the frame, and sometimes when that happens, the offenses are trying to give room to the handlers to run a handler dominator or weave, but we weren't quite seeing that.
And looking for the hammer into the end zone, Guerrero couldn't quite connect to Cañedo.
Christian Guerrero, a veteran of the 2015 Manila Spirits All-Star Exhibition Showcase hosted by Early Recognition, is critical. One of the major contributors to Team Philippines and their matchups against the Team Eric All-Stars from the United States.
A thriving ultimate community in the Philippines. As now loose, an opportunity to break. This is the second time I've said that, and then there's I think the commentator's curse is real.
But the Philippine defense is not applying pressure.
Straight miscues and including into the end zone. But the Philippines, like we were talking about, strong ultimate community. There are a lot of apparel that is made there, and worn across the world. Some of my favorite jerseys made by a Filipino company. And there's the huck. Loose looking for that field position, but Ishikawa just cannot quite get there. So walking back up, another opportunity for Mulatto. And a timeout called. A couple different back and forths so far. This is the second day of pool play. The World Ultimate Club Championships began on Saturday with opening ceremonies. There was some parachuting from the sky, as well as a mixed showcase game where Wildcard out of Boston took on Krut from the Netherlands in an exciting ultimate point matchup. And now we have some really great mix on display here. So we have a lot more game ahead of us, but right now, Shinshu Loose leads Mulatto Pilipinas 3-2.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.
Welcome back to Lebanon, Ohio. We're in the first half of pool play. Shinshu Loose out of Japan leads Mulatto Pilipinas from the Philippines 3-2. Pilipinas to check it back in. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald alongside Ian Toner. Big strike cut. Now near sideline. Kira Tuvia. Looking for the look. Decides to go to the end zone. And there's Tuvia. No surprise. She is open and a talented receiver ready for the pass.
Pretty clear that she's going to be the every other option and the bailout option for this Philippines offense. And I'm not sure that Shinshu Loose has the defenders to put an adequate challenging matchup on her. In those situations, the strategic adjustments that you have to make are more team-wide, where you've got other defenders always keeping an eye on the deepest receiver and being prepared to peel off their defender and help with those deep cuts. But situation like that, high stall, blade to the opposite corner of the end zone, very difficult to defend against.
Tuvia with her second goal so far of the game and 1 assist. You do see that in mixed. If it's a female defender, sometimes you see male defender come and help. We did not see one from Loose there. But we're holding at 3 apiece. Loose working it through the handlers. Sumiya. Sakai. Centered it back to Sumiya. Gaining yards. Izumi. And some miscommunication. Sakai was looking for Honda. So the Philippines now on offense. A lot of spacing in between players in the vertical stack. Looking to go deep and sails out to outside the far sideline. Looked like more of a bailout than really a set up deep cut. Hirai to pick up for loose. Sumiya to Sakai. Sakai in power position. Honda with the fake. Ogasawara. Straight shot. Needed a little bit more angle, and Ogasawara disappointed as that throw did not do what he was hoping it would.
And as this game progresses, these multi-turnover points that increase in duration and become more and more taxing on the players, we can eventually look back on these as turning points to understand who was able to persevere, fight through the grit, and come out on top and convert breaks or preserve holds after multiple turnovers in a point.
Really shows the stamina of the team. A little collision in the stack. Foul called.
And it's a real contrast here in offensive philosophy and style. Look just how far deep the Philippine stack is in comparison to that tight, well-structured Japanese vertical stack that likes to reset upfield. There's not a lot of support for those handlers and a lot of space at the front of that stack.
So much spacing as the handlers are working it with each other. Canonizado strikes and bounces off the hands of Francisco. Loose, back on offense. Swinging over to Sakai. And Sakai recognizes a receiver in the end zone. There's Moeko Hirata. Gets the goal to end a long point.
Well, that's the toughest hold they've had so far this game, but a good confidence booster for the offense. On the one hand, multiple turnovers. On the other hand, they're able to get the disc back multiple times. Convert in the end zone.
Such nice timing with Sakai. Talking with the Shinshu Loose team, they said that they really turned to YouTube to watch games. You can see some hellos from the Pilipinas line there, but the advent of so much media available of teams internationally has really helped them. So them and probably other teams too, but to watch and see the different styles of other countries, even if it's not that team specifically. So Ishikawa winding up for the pull. Still on serve in this first half. Pull rolling. Disc centered, swinging over. Nolek. A zone look from Loose. Working it across. Canedo to Tuvia. Now on the far sideline. Shooting for the end zone, and thought maybe we would get a bid from Francisco. But that would have to be pretty horizontal for something to convert.
Well, Francisco's been such a strong deep threat. Clearly some of the fastest legs on the team, and it's tough to overthrow him, but this Philippine offense is going to have to recalibrate if they're able to get the disc back here.
Loose, full field. Harumoto in that power position. Kimura swinging over. Hiraishi. Kobayashi back over to Hiraishi. And layout. Francisco getting it back for Pilipinas. And guess who was the target? That's Tuvia for the hold. Off of the turnover right away, Pilipinas converts to tie it up at 4s.
Kyra Tuvia involved in every Pilipinas score so far this game. 3 goals, 1 assist. Shinshu Luz would be wise to do something to force that offense to go to other options. Keep switching up the matchups as we talked about. Try and figure out other ways to have other defenders helping and peeling off their assignments to guard her. You got to make it more difficult for Tuvia because she's just feasting out there right now.
She is certainly a dominant factor, as is Francisco with that layout bid to get the turnover, going into the space so well. And the pull is veering right. It sails actually over the bleachers that are set up here at the showcase field. That's probably a good heckle opportunity.
I was going to say, there's the common ultimate heckle when someone pulls the disc out of bounds. Not a puller, but, man, that one sailed far over the bleachers. Really got to rethink your assignments on your team after that one.
So it will be checked in on the far sideline. Hidai, lots of ground to Honda. Honda caught it, fell a little. Back in play. Far sideline. Izumi over to Hirai. Tight spaces, but Hirai finds Honda. Quick goal for the Loose.
Well, there was a double cut to the front corner of that end zone. The offense had been looking so smooth and disciplined as they marched up the field. Good job using the width of the field, swinging off that sideline where they got started. But ultimately, Honda able to beat his mark to that 4-side cone. Again, that's not the first time we've seen a 4-side cone goal in this matchup, and those scores just have to be more difficult. That's the one area on the field that defenders have to protect.
Throwing in those tight spaces, also difficult. Sometimes it just bounces off of the offense. Not in this case, though. So we are still on serve. Shinshu leading Mulatto 5-4. Shinshu started as a team in 2013 for the first Mixed Club Championships in Japan and really made it a goal to make it to WUCC after just missing out in Lecco in 2014.
They've been battling for supremacy in the Japanese mixed scene against Cafe de Luida, another Japanese mixed team who's here.
And Pilipinas nearly at their red zone, far sideline. Some handler movement, and Tuvia once again. That's a goal. Actually, some discussion. It is self-called and is called in. Defender disappointed, but Tuvia so far unstoppable in the end zone.
Once again, another 4-side cone goal. You'd like to see better defense here at the World Championships, but Tuvia's speed is just impossible to contain. Sounding like a broken record, but she's still involved in every single Mulatto Pilipinas goal. That's 4 goals and 1 assist for Cairo Tubia.
So Ian, if you were a coach here, what kind of advice then would you give to try and help contain that matchup?
I think what we talked about a little bit earlier, I'd like to see some more team person help defense where other defenders in the stack are keeping their eyes up if she goes deep, and they could potentially peel off and help that. And also when you're in the end zone, it's very easy to run clam or other types of poach defenses that limit the one-on-one opportunities and force throwers to throw a lot of fakes, a lot of throws in the red zone, and it's very rarely one-on-one matchups that end up costing you in those end zone assignments.
Speaking of zone assignments, Pilipinas in a zone look as Luz is working through this kind of junky look into the throwing lanes. Have almost 4 handlers back. That wing, far wing comes over to help right through the middle. Sakai resets to Sumiya. Izumi over to Ogasawara. Resets to Sumiya.
Mulatto defense sticking with their zone all the way into the red zone. They haven't transitioned yet.
And Luz swinging it across the field. Honda looking for the goal. About 3 people around Sumiya. Izumi right on the goal line. Now 4 people flanking the disc, the thrower. And all the patience. Sumiya moving her mark. Loose, near sideline. Finding the opening. Still not in. They'll throw 100 passes if they need to, but that one will do it. Izumi catches it for the goal.
Once again, excellent patience and structure from this Shinshu Luz offense. And Mulatto Pilipinas putting as much defensive pressure on as they can, but they trail Shinshu Luz 6-5.
If you want to be a high performer, eat like one. Start with a balanced diet and drink plenty of water. Good nutrition is one of the best ways to boost your mental and your physical health.
Welcome back. Lebanon, Ohio, where Shinshu Luz leads Mulatto Pilipinas 6-5 in this pool play game. Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. Pretty low pull with a little bit of bounce at the end.
Yeah, we've seen a couple interesting pulls so far this game. We just had one sail out of bounds over the stands. Another one barely making it half field.
And miscue with the handlers. Loose in favorable scoring position. There's the strike cut to Murata. Kawaguchi, low swing. Oike, Kawaguchi, kind of interesting end zone look. Set up with Loose. Kobayashi threw a much larger defender. Kawaguchi. And over the top. That's a goal. Miki Kobayashi. However, not so fast. There's a stall called at the throw. Of course, the throw has to be made before the T in 10, and it's an audible count by the person defending on the mark.
So the game advisor there stepping in to explain the rules associated with calling a stall and what may happen if a stall call is contested. It looks like Francisco is retracting his call, and we've got a goal.
And the goal will stand. That is the first break of the game. Shinshu loose, excitedly celebrating as they go up 7-5. If they score one more, they'll take it to half.
Well, the loose D-line has to be proud of its efforts on that point. A miscue gave them the disc, but great patience, structure, discipline after the turnover. Both of these teams have had several break opportunities with the disc and had not been able to convert up until that point, as you pointed out, Emmy. Loose now 1 for 6 on break opportunities, and Pilipinas now 0 for 6.
Sure, they're hoping to change that. The rest of this first half going into the second half. We're feeling intermittent raindrops out at the field, but so far does not seem to be affecting the play. Tuvia underneath. We'll see if Tuvia is involved with this score, if Pilipinas is able to convert. Lots of unders. Guerrero underneath. Tuvia. Right on the goal line. Quick dish. Still not in. And there's that front cone. It is a score. That's Manguera. Still a goal for Pilipinas. The first goal that Tuvia is not involved with.
Things looked a little dicey a few times on that point for the Mulatto Pilipinas offense, but they were able to march it up the field, and as you mentioned, just simple defensive assignments, not protecting the front cone. Casual offhand, backhand from Guerrero. He's thrown that once or twice before.
So Mulatto Pilipinas is able to answer pretty quickly, and a timeout is called on the field by Luce. This is an important point for them. If they score here, they take it to half. If they don't score here, then it's tied up 7 apiece. So half will be at 8. So exciting, all the viewers watching around the world. Some friends of Filipino descent watching in the States as well.
You hear the whistle from the game advisors there on the sideline. There's a difference between the time set aside for timeouts called during a point and timeouts called between points. Timeouts during a point are typically just 1 minute and 30 seconds. Timeouts between points take about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Big strategic advantage for calling those timeouts between points. Even more time for your legs to recover, get that line that you want out there recharged. And we haven't seen any Pilipinas stars crossing over onto the D-line just yet. They've been keeping a lot of them on their O-line, but as we take a look here at the Pilipinas D-line, we see Antonio Francisco crossing over.
They're itching to get that break back, to tie it up, and then see who will take it to half. There's the pull. Sumiya. Dishes to Hirai. Call on the field.
And there's another O-line player crossing over. That's David Dada Liboan, another speedster, working to get this break before halftime.
Sumiya with so many really quick cuts to get open. Sakai up to Honda. Resets, Ogasawara, Sakai. Nice break throw to Fuji. Honda.
So much structure and discipline with this loose offense. It's incredible to compare their approach to the Philippine offense, and just like that, a really unfortunate execution error from Kentaro Izumi.
And when you have so many throws, sometimes that's bound to happen. But here's the break opportunity. If Mulatto Pilipinas can score, they'll tie it up at 7s. Again, with a lot of spacing from handler to cutter. And there's the look towards the end zone. Honda goes full extension. It's still active though. And that, we're checking to see if it's in. Collins was the receiver, and that is ruled a goal and a break.
Well, the first break of the game for the Philippines, and that was not pretty by any means. Francisco had a wide open dump multiple times that point that he never even looked at. To me, that suggests a real lack of structure and discipline. His huck gets blocked, and just by the luck of the Mac, the angle, the wind keeping it alive, Mulatto gets that break by the skin of their teeth, but I don't know if that's one to be proud of on any account.
A goal is a goal. Honda, perfect layout form, but check out the toe drag from Collins to keep that in bounds. And he was in bounds by quite a bit, according to the replay.
Yeah, great awareness there. No doubt in anyone's mind.
So now we're at 7 apiece. I've been told the Europeans call this the Galaxy point.
Because?
It's not quite as big as the point for the universe.
Okay, gotcha.
The jury's still out on how I feel about Galaxy Point. I'm not the biggest universe point fan either. I got to tell you.
I'd much rather say double game point myself.
Same. Honda, near sideline. Ogasawara over to Hirai. Layout, still alive. Over the top, but right out of nowhere is the Pilipinas defense looking for another break to take it to half. Tuvia to Nolek. It's underneath Castor.
Once again, with the halftime advantage on the line, we see Mulatto Pilipinas stacking this D-line with more offensively oriented stars. Cairo Tuvia crossing over. And a very veteran call there. Initiating that timeout, giving the D-line offense a chance to regroup and make a clear game plan to punch this break in as they head into halftime.
Would certainly be a momentum shift if they were to go into halftime with the lead. Castor having 9 full counts. And some exciting plays to make it happen. First, the layout to keep the possession alive. And then that over the top. There's Gerard Castor. Really coming out of nowhere.
Well, that's the end zone defense and recognition that Shinshu Loose needs to employ when other defenders are in Cairo Tuvia's range, peeling off their assignment, seeing that opportunity, clogging those lanes. That's what they're going to need to do to limit Tuvia's impact as the game goes on.
Tuvia at the back of the stack. Loose telling their players, Honda, it's probably coming over to you. He's last back. Tuvia with the disc. And a foul called. This Honda Guerrero matchup, which is pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, Christian Guerrero's got great speed and great size. Honda, a leader of the Shinshu Loose offense, and it looks like they're disagreeing about an arm bar or a push-off downfield as Guerrero was working to get open.
So contested foul will go back. Tuvia still with the disc. Castor is her other handler back. Maintaining possession. Guerrero, far sideline. Up the line. Castor. Inside break. Over the top.
And we've seen Guerrero be a little ambitious in the red zone earlier this game. A crossfield hammer look at a lower stall count, and then right here, as his team is working it up with halftime on the line, just an aggressive breakthrow that was a good look, but not well executed and low in the stall count. And at the very least, you got to give your receiver a chance if you're going to break the mark into the wind like that.
So now, Loose has to work it up. The full field. Sakai finds Sumiya. Nice layout from Sumiya. Olga Sawada. And a timeout called, this time on the Loose side, recognizing the importance of scoring this point.
Well, hey, if you don't use them, you lose them. Both teams have 2 timeouts per half. Shinshu Loose making the most of this opportunity here. Try to build some confidence for their offense as they continue to persevere through this multiple turnover point.
Turning into a real grind of a point. We're tied at 7s in the first half. Ian, do you think Loose will come out with a set play or look more for their offensive flow?
You know, if I'm Loose, I just want to run my disciplined vertical stack that had such success earlier in the game. There's no need to deviate from the game plan. Obviously, if Mulatto Pilipinas comes out and throws a zone, that's going to require some adjustment, but I'd start with my bread and butter, the structure that everyone knows well and is proven to have success in this game, and if you need to adapt, set up that zone offense discipline that they've used if necessary.
So Loose setting up in the vertical stack. Olga Sawada is going to check it in. It looks like a one-on-one matchup from the defensive side. Up the line, big fake from Fuji. Olga Sawada underneath. Hirai, Sumiya right outside the goal line. Fuji, and that is a score. Sumiya hopping into the end zone to take half.
Well, once again, discipline, patience perseveres, and Shinshu Loose, after a couple turnovers that put their backs up against the wall, converts the hold. They lead Mulatto Pilipinas 8-7 going into half.
There is a place where we are us at our best.
A place where everyone is welcome,
regardless of age, shape, skin color, or anything else that tries to box people in.
A place where we defy the odds.
And even defy gravity.
a place that knows grit, knows grace, knows bright lights, and knows empty bleachers.
A place where we remember to laugh.
Where we learn to trust.
And eventually, even learn to fly.
A place where character, community, and competition
back and forth battle so far in this first half. Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. Ian, what have you seen go really well so far for these teams?
Well, contrasting philosophies when it comes to offensive structure and strategy. Shinshu Loose, a very disciplined vertical stack that they know they can rely on. Every player has their role clearly defined. Mulatto Pilipinas, on the other hand, relying on the athleticism of its stars. Not the same level of discipline or structure. A lot of times they'll take 50-50 deep shots to their stars, and if anyone can find a way to contain Cairo Tuvia, I think they'd love to inform Shinshu Loose on how to do that, because she has been running wild in this first half, involved in 5 of Pilipinas' 7 goals.
And we've seen some different defensive adjustments, different matchups on Tuvia so far. And it's great to see both teams really using their men and women really well. Really contributes to that gender equity that we see in mixed. Part of workshops that are happening this week at WUCC.
Yeah, lots of great events taking place outside the main events. We'll have more details on a gender equity workshop after this break.
If you want to be a high performer, eat like one. Start with a balanced diet and drink plenty of water. Good nutrition is one of the best ways to boost your mental and your physical health.
At halftime, Shinshu Loose leads Mulatto Pilipinas 8-6 in this pool play game. Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. And WCC, all kinds of activities happening, including part 2 of the equity training for organizers. So in the evening, all who are in and around this Cincinnati, Mason, Lebanon area are invited to attend an experience with equity concepts and attend a training geared towards action. It focuses on how to use analysis of systems of gender inequality and intersect that with racism, colonialism, and other systems of oppression when doing organizing work. That happens at the Marriott Hotel, which is kind of de facto the tournament hotel so far. Both teams using their women so well. We were talking about Kira Tuvia, so dominant, as well as on the loose side, Sumiya, Sakai, Hirai, all women with big elements in the game, in addition to the men who are very skilled and athletic.
Yeah, we saw the Philippines relying on their athletes. This deep shot here from Francisco to Kyra Tavia earlier on in the game. Japan, on the other hand, relying on its structure. Manabu Honda, one of the top contributors for that Japanese offense, and we saw him get a hand on that block. Just an unfortunate turn of events, but he's got 1 goal and 3 assists. The Philippines, however, making their efforts to earn turnovers and keep this game tight. They trail Shinshu loose, 8-7 at half.
The second half is just about underway as Mulatto Pilipinas trails by 1 to Shinshu loose out of Japan. I'm Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner, and exciting first half so far. We were tied at 7s as Loose took it to half.
And it took a while for us to come across the first break of the game. Mulatto Pilipinas relying more on its athleticism and person-to-person matchups. We saw a few instances of zone that really tested the discipline of the Japanese Shinshu loose offense, but great patience, some textbook end zone dump swing performances, able to fight through those challenges.
So we'll see how soon we can get a break in this second half. Pilipinas will be receiving. Getting in some quick throws from the handlers. Kind of a loose zone and match combination from loose.
Pun intended?
Always, always intended. Pilipinas swinging it.
Yeah, some great handler poaches. Those offside handlers sagging into the lanes to clog up the throwing lanes, and good recognition here as they move to midfield. Those Philippine handlers cycling through, attacking with strike cuts to get those poaches out of the lane.
And double cut, though. There's Tuvia. And foul called. Looks like Rue Kobayashi was maybe a little too close. Batted the disc down. Now Pilipinas in their end zone, looking for that inside flick. And it's always pretty, we've had a few scores where it's pretty anticlimactic score.
When you've got a thrower like Christian Guerrero, he can size up his opportunities quite well. And you see him settling in, just a little shimmy to move the mark just enough. There was great recognition there by Daisuke Kawaguchi, but not enough pressure to stop Guerrero's break side throw from getting off and slicing up through the middle of that defense.
So we're tied back at 8. Mulatto converting on their first offensive possession. That point was fairly quick versus the point to take it into half was not. Each team calling a timeout apiece. Loose ending up scoring. Hirai catching the pull over to Ogasawara, now to Sumiya. Honda with the backhand right away. He's looking for Moeko Hirata, but you could tell she thought maybe she could run a little bit faster, but that disc was moving pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that after a stiller morning, now that we're starting to transition to the early afternoon, there's a crosswind that wasn't present, and when you throw that outside in disc and expose that top side face of the disc to the wind, every time you throw that, the wind is going to push it down. So I'm not sure if the thrower accounted for the change in conditions there.
Now an opportunity for Mulatto. Tuvia up to Francisco.
Very deep stack here once again from the Philippines. We've seen this where they've kind of been stranding their handlers.
And highly contested in the air. Great closing speed. Antonio Francisco gets the break with the score.
Well, how about the hammer grab by Gerard Castor? With defenders closing in, he had to elevate, maintain his position. That was the key to this point, as the Philippine offense was stagnating, and this was clearly a 50-50 shot. And he doesn't waste any time after coming down with that. Right into the end zone to Francisco, the leading male scorer on this Mulatto Pilipinas squad.
So Mulatto Pilipinas will take the lead for the first time in the second half. They're up 9-8. And whereas they struggled with converting breaks in the first half, their first break opportunity in the second half, they were able to take care of business.
Can't say it was pretty. That offense was stagnant. The handlers were a little stranded. Not a lot of action downfield, and they had to complete at least one 50-50 pass to punch it in. But hey, if you know your strength is your one-on-one athleticism, sometimes you're just going to have to play to it.
So the loose offense back out on the field. Hirai over to Ogasawara.
Again, just a lot of initiation from those handlers, and the front of the stack. Honda that time peeling off the back to continue his cut off that swing.
Honda really working it underneath. Now reset to Sumiya. Up this near sideline, Fuji shoots to the end zone, and 1 foot in, Kazuki Ogasawara is there.
And that's a really tough moment defensively, but coachable moment. We see Sarah Nolek being a very adaptive mark, shifting over as the stall count gets higher. But what she doesn't realize is she exposes the force, a wide open break throw that should normally be taken away or at least made significantly more difficult. But as she slid over, that break window became wide open. Great recognition by the loose thrower as the stall count was rising. Didn't know if she was going to get out of that jam any other way.
Yeah, great patience from Yuri Fuji, who was looking so hard for that dump that she just turns around a little bit and says, oh, well, maybe I'll just throw an assist instead. And now we're tied up at 9s apiece. Answering right away, Mulatto Pilipinas up 1 break. It's a game to 15. Lots of hang time. Pilipinas elects not to pick up the disc. Guerrero over to Francisco. Tight spaces, keeping it on this near sideline. Looks for the hammer over top to Tuvia. And shoots a laser in between 2 Mulatto teammates.
And that's the first mistake we've seen Kyra Tuvia make this entire game. Not sure if handling in that zone is her kryptonite, but it definitely neutralizes her ability to get open one-on-one.
Maybe employing some of that team look. Loose trapped on the near sideline. Looks to get rid of it. I don't know if that disc came back in.
Yeah, the stall count was rising. There was a man open near the front of the end zone, but just poor execution.
Looking for that huck right away. Closing in. There's the layout. But David Libawan, using everything he had, just cannot get there.
We know he's got speed, but as that disc went up, it didn't look like he turned on the jets until the final 10 yards, and you saw how close he was to coming up with that disc. If he would have just accelerated earlier on in his cut, he might have been able to come down with that grab.
So another opportunity for Luce. And the layout keeps it in play. Chika Hori was the one who laid out to grab it. There's some question on if the disc was up or down. Hori is saying, I think that her hand was underneath. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it's tough to be completely positive, but I do agree with the argument she's making that she was able to link those fingers on her right hand completely under the disc before any contact with the grass.
It looked up to me, but this grass is pretty long too.
And that's just at full speed. It's so difficult for those players on the field to make that call. Shielded by the body there on that angle. The argument that I can see from the Philippines is that perhaps she didn't fully have control, or the pancake attempt impacted her full possession of the disc as she went to the ground. But it looks like things are just going to go back to the original thrower here.
When in doubt, redo it. So that's what we have. with Loose. The strike cut. And a bid into Murata. And it's interesting, it looked more dangerous on the part of the Pilipinas defender coming into Murata.
Yeah, getting another look at that. That is just entirely reckless. There's absolutely no play on the disc. The only angle that you're going to take is straight into the torso of the receiver.
It could result in a pretty serious injury.
If we were playing under USA Ultimate rules, that would absolutely be grounds for a TMF or a PMF. Player safety is obviously paramount, and the opponents on the field bear the responsibility to understand what their actions are going to do to their opponents and their teammates.
So checked back in. Loose on offense after a couple stoppages to begin this possession. Kobayashi over to Kimura. There's the huck, big backhand, floating, closing in, and the layout and the slide. Ishikawa gets the goal.
Well, Yuki Ishikawa hadn't showed up on the stat sheet just yet, but he's making his presence known here in the second half as we get another look at Daisuke Kawaguchi's phenomenal backhand huck, unfazed by the crosswind.
Goes down with two hands, slides along his torso. How about that closing speed from Ishikawa? I like the flare at the end, too, the one-handed show. I caught it.
Daisuke Kawaguchi now with 2 assists in this game. Shinshu Loose leading Mulatto Pilipinas 10-9.
Do you want to avoid overuse injuries? Cross-train. Get your exercise routine out of a routine and mix it up with a variety of activities. Your muscles, tendons, and joints will thank you later.
Back in action. Pilipinas on offense on this near sideline. And Loose back in there. Loose zone. Nolek and Guerrero working. Finds an opening underneath to Francisco. Continuing over, Cañedo. And straight to the end zone. Through the zone and into person, Pilipinas is able to get the goal.
Yeah, that was one of the easier offensive points that Pilipinas has navigated this entire game. Took a little bit to get started, but once they burst through the cup and found Francisco at midfield, they were kind of off to the races as we see Castor finish things off to Francisco.
As soon as they were able to break through the middle, they really didn't waste any time. Got rid of the disc pretty quickly to tie it up at 10s. Quite the back and forth game. A couple breaks apiece. And both teams just working really hard, hoping to eke away the W. The Anchor Marvelous game, also pretty close in the pool. 9-8 Anchor. Now Loose catching the pull. Sumiya. Haneda with the disc in the backfield. He'll reset it. Ogasawara up the line to Hirai. And this loose offense just really moving quickly through. Now settling in a little bit closer to the end zone, but that's a shot to that front cone. Ogasawara is there.
Excellent pacing there from the Shinshu loose offense, timing their continuation cuts and dishy cuts very well off their swings and their underneath gainers. The Pilipinas defense just had to keep recovering, forced on its heels the entire point, and that's what good structure and fundamentals will do for an offense.
So now, loose is up 11-10. It's a game to 15. The time you see on the clock is the time to the cap. And in the whiff-diff rules, it's a 1-point cap. And that's it. The sun starting to come out a little bit more. It looked like it could rain earlier. We felt some raindrops. Thankfully, we're covered here in the booth. Nolek receives the pull over to Guerrero. Looking at those handler movements. Pilipinas kind of answering with very, very quick disc movement. Near sideline. Looks for the easiest option in Guerrero. Tuvia. Back and forth. Straight up the line. One-handed grab. There's Francisco. It's not the first time he's caught it near the edge of the sideline today.
Great spacing there by the downfield cutters for this Mulatto Pilipinas offense. There was a little crowding in the backfield once they got to midfield, but the more they kept their space, the more they forced those Shinshu loose wings and deeps to make difficult choices. And Francisco all alone there in the end zone, an easy finish for this offense.
So we're tied back up at 11s. Back and forth. One team will get a break, then the other team gets the break here in this second half. Francisco, so far with 3 goals and 2 assists. However, he is not the scoring leader for this Pilipinas team. That would be Kira Tuvia with her 4 goals, 1 assist. That pull will not stay in. Kind of lands right on the game advisor's boundary line. So Ogasawara will check it in. See a lot of spacing on this force side. The wind suddenly did pick up. Honda. Hirai back over to Honda. Nice strike and dish across. Hirai. And looking to see whether that was a foul call or a travel call. It might be both, but coming in on 0 nonetheless. Strike to Honda. Sumiya continues to that far sideline. Honda with that low release over to Fuji. Swings around, stays in bounds. And it is called in. Izumi resets to Ogasawara. And right off the fingertips of Hirata, which it seems like if she had run into the disc, maybe she would have caught it.
Well, that was just a
position.
That was just a poor throw. The dump swing offense had been working so perfectly, and all the thrower needed to do was just lead her out into space. That one coming in a little high inside, slightly behind her. Really difficult to adjust when you're running at full speed.
So a timeout called. Mulatto Pilipinas will take it at the front cone. It is Christian Guerrero who has been a big part of this Pilipinas offense so far. 2 assists in the game. What do you think that Pilipinas will do effectively to try and get the break here, Ian?
Well, Cairo Tavia's out there. Christian Guerrero's out there. Got a couple of athletes who've made their mark on this game already. If anything, I'd expect the Philippines to keep working the disc around until they were able to find an opening for Tuvia. We've seen them isolate her deep once or twice, but more often than not, she just beats her mark to the four-side cone. So if they can work the disc up the field in a disciplined manner, I'd love to see Tuvia attacking both cones once they get in the red zone.
That acceleration to the front cones have worked for both teams so far. Tied at 11s. Inching closer to the hard cap, but still over 20 minutes away. Some points taking a long time, some just quickly moving down the field. We have a whistle. Marked up on Tuvia is Yuri Fuji.
Once again, Tuvia, the release valve. Both dump options far away and completely covered, but Tuvia's there to bail them out.
Handler movement underneath. Castor up the line to Tuvia. Over to Francisco. Tuvia far sideline.
And that's a little aggressive on Honda's part there. I think he was attempting to slow up and avoid further contact, but in doing so, he leveled a nice hip check on the much smaller Francisco.
And up the line, some loose players came in to help. Recovering back, Guerrero leading pass, and Pilipinas will take the lead, 12-11.
One of the more composed offensive points we've seen from this Pilipinas D-line offense. Some nice offhand throws there as we saw Guerrero finish off his third assist of this game. Had to fight through some contact earlier on in the point, but a great confidence builder here for Mulatto Pilipinas. They're leading 12-11 in this game to 15.
Crucial point scored with certainly opportunities from the loose team to score, but Mulatto Pilipinas taking advantage of it, in which is definitely a tight game. It's also tight. This Anchor Marvelous game is tied at 10s over on their field.
Big implications there for how Pool D will continue to work itself out. Again, these mixed pools are larger than the pools in the men's and women's divisions. Marvelous currently sitting at third at 1-1. Anchor in first place at 2-0 with the best goal differential in the pool.
Now, loose, looking to the end zone. Honda trailing slides and catches right away, gets the score.
And that's a textbook Japanese forehand deep shot. Significant blade on the throw, curling away from the defender to that back shoulder where they have no chance at making a play on the disc. We've seen men's teams, women's teams, mixed teams employ this type of look. And proving successful here for the Shinshu loose offense. Surprised we haven't seen it earlier on, but that's just not their game. They're typically more reliant on that standard vert stack offensive structure. But a very opportunistic find there. Honda leading his team offensively. 2 goals and 4 assists so far in this game.
And Honda has the big backhand throw. So usually he's the one throwing it, but this time he is there to catch it with a sliding afterwards. Now we're tied at 12s. Guerrero picks up. Castor to Francisco. Guerrero back with the disc. Looking for that quick reset. Forcing this towards this near sideline to kind of push the Pilipinas folks in as tightly as possible. They, with some breaks, are now in the middle of the field. Looking for that scuba. It's good. And they zip it on in. 13-12. Mulatto, Pilipinas.
Well, that zone really didn't seem to phase the Mulatto Pilipinas offense. Some great handler movement. A lot of throwers attacking upfield after they release their throws. Francisco capping things off with a little scuba give and go. Mulatto Pilipinas on top, 13-12.
Heat illness strikes kids and adults alike during summer workouts. Watch for muscle cramps, fever, nausea, headache, weakness, or feeling faint. Act fast to get cool and get fluids.
Welcome back, where Mulatto Pilipinas leads 13-12. Emmy Fitzgerald with Ian Toner. Shinshu loose in the white jerseys on offense. Honda fakes with the backhand. Ogasawara hanging on. He'll reset to Honda. Hirai continuing onto the break side. That leading pass to Ogasawara. Loose looking to tie it up. Opening with Sakai. Over the top and not in. Uncharacteristic turnover. Usually there's more patience in that red zone from Loose.
Yeah, not sure if the thrower felt particularly pressured there. I don't know that the stall count was at an unmanageable spot, but a golden opportunity for Pilipinas to go up 2 breaks very late in this game.
Working it on the far sideline. Known for having all of that space between the handlers and the cutters that we've seen today. Continue with it. Francisco will reset to Canedo. To Villa, up the line. Defender is sandwiched, and the disc ended up sailing over all 3 of them.
And I think Both Tuvia and Manguera share responsibility for that turnover. Obviously, Tuvia threw the turnover, a little difficult to catch, but Manguera started yelling for the disc when she wasn't open. That's the same third throw where maybe she had a step, but there was also a defender peeling off the top of the stack, defending against that four-side strike cut. Just not 100% look. And I think the urgency of Manguera's call for the disc really was one of the primary deciding factors when Tuvia was preparing to release it.
So a timeout called, taken by Loose, the team from Shinshu, Japan, in the northern part. And then, of course, Mulatto, Pilipinas. And Shinshu near Nagano, which is the site of the Winter Olympics back in, I believe it was 1998. Of course, the Olympics returning to Japan, Tokyo in 2020 in the Summer Games. And I'm sure all these teams hoping that maybe they or the young players in their community might participate in the Olympics someday. Now back on the field, checking it back in will be Yuki Hirai for this Loose team. The stack's slightly slanted because the disc is so close to the near sideline. Lots of leading space. Honda comes underneath. Inside flick bobbles a little bit, but Ogasawara is there. Far sideline. Fuji looking for that reset. Quick movement. That's the layout. Two hands. Honda with the goal.
Well, Honda really making his presence felt in the second half as well. Great pacing by this Shinshu Loose offense. Really changing the point of attack several times, coming out of that turnover, forcing the Mulatto Pilipinas defense to consistently recover to try and set the mark. And great break throws all the way up the field. Honda finishing things off with his third goal of the game.
So now we're tied at 13 apiece in this second half. It is a game to 15. Both teams showing patience, yet not perfection. Work that out in the days of pool play to put your best foot forward going into the power pools and bracket.
So looking around the pool, we've got some exciting action unfolding. Anchor leading Marvelous DC 12-11. And Hong Kong Neon leading Argentina Ultimate Club 12-10. Lots of parity in this pool. Tight finishes going down to the wire.
This field is no exception. We're tied at 13-13. Mulatto Pilipinas with the disc on the far sideline. Tuvia swings over to Francisco. Shooting for the end zone. Will it stay in bounds? The receiver stays in bounds, but the disc lands on the ground.
Yeah, Guerrero trying to toe that back line. Definitely got his fingers on the disc. I'm not sure if that crosswind had something to do with impacting his read or the catch under those tough situations, but couldn't quite get his hands fully underneath it. It looked like he tried to go for a pancake catch and kind of bring it into his chest, but in those situations with such a sharply blading disc and such proximity to the back line, you may simply need to attack that and stab it with one hand.
So Loose with a chance to get to 14. Strike cut extension catch from Kawaguchi. That's a blade that is way too short.
And that's the wind rearing its head. I think in stiller conditions, that shot probably would have gone off a little more smoothly.
Pilipinas now with the opportunity to take the lead inside of half field. Quick movement. Guerrero. So a timeout is called. Looked like the stall count was getting high and there weren't really options. Everyone looked tired. Strategic use of timeout. Although, if we get to a double game point situation, could come in handy there.
Yeah, Philippines having some trouble working the disc up the field there after they got that back. Great work by the Shinshu Loose defense, containing Pilipinas' attack, and timeouts are always a great time when you're stagnant and really need an opportunity to preserve a hold or convert a break.
Crucial for both teams, since both teams need only 2 points to win the game. Some points going so quickly and others just really dragging out, just with all the emotion that comes from competing at a Worlds tournament.
Taking another check back in around the pool. Anchor and Marvelous tied at 12 now. Argentina Ultimate Club inching closer to Hong Kong Neon. They're trailing 12-11. Again, incredible implications coming out of this round. Lots of potential for teams to solidify their spot at the top of the pool or move further down as pool play continues.
Layout bid, straight, thought it was gonna be a layout. That's a run through. Kobayashi reading it so well, gets Loose back on offense. Now, Loose back with the disc. Inching towards the end zone. Continuing now on the far sideline. Straight up the line. It's worked for them before. That's Hirona Murata to get the goal.
Well, it looked like the Philippine defenders were confused on the force after that point and weren't exactly rushing to clarify things. Some mix-ups in the red zone and costly time to make a mistake because now it's game point for Shinshu Loose. That's their crucial break as we head down the wire here.
So Mulatto Pilipinas will get the disc to start the point. So while it is game point for Shinshu Loose, they will need to break to be able to win the game. And so far, it's been difficult for teams to get 2-point leads. As soon as there's a lead or a break, the other team answers back. If Pilipinas can convert, we'll be looking at a double game point scenario.
Lots of the same personnel out there. Francisco Sarah Nelak was about to field the pull before that trailed out of bounds, and Guerrero, the center handler who's been guiding things all game with his throws, is going to pick up here at the brick mark with the game on the line.
Walking up, Guerrero 4 assists on the day. You can see a horizontal stack, and the cutters are a little bit closer than they have been. That initiation play underneath. Tuvia dives for it, but catches it. Luce trying for the D, back on the mark. Right up the line, not in. Hammer over the top. That is caught. It's a goal. Guerrero is there. And now the next team who scores wins.
A lot of traffic there at that front cone. Not great end zone offense discipline. Stall count rising. Never really saw Cañedo turn and look at any of his dump options. Had his eyes downfield the entire time, and fortunately Guerrero's defender wasn't able to turn around quite in time to get a hand on that disc.
We call those end zone eyes.
And Guerrero's got his first goal of the game at a timely moment. And here we see double game point, all of the Philippine stars crossing over, staying on. We see Francisco, Guerrero, Liboan, Tuvia, Castor.
So they will be on defense, trying to get a break. If they can, they win. The loose O-line doing a great job so far today. Very few breaks by either team. Honda shakes loose underneath. Quickly gaining yards across the width of the field.
Some switching, taking away that first reset, causing them to lose yardage.
Now working it, gaining some yards underneath. Fuji resetting to Osagawara. Those small controlled passes working so well. Sumiya. And looks through the defender. Luce is calling a timeout. Checking to see how many timeouts each team has taken so far.
Remember, both teams do get 2 timeouts per half.
So there's the timeout. Wise to call to get into that offensive formation. Ian, are you aware of the penalty if a team calls a timeout when they don't have one left?
I believe it's a turnover.
That is what I would think too. But the teams are able to take those here. Mulatto Pilipinas playing great defense to stay close by. Shinshu loose. Patient. Wanting to make the smartest option possible. For a second there, you just hate for a game to be decided on errant timeout calls. You see that in March Madness basketball, college basketball, deciding factors for games. Disc is checked back in, immediately centered. Continuing to Fuji.
Great defense there by David Leboan, taking away the underneath cut from Honda.
Looks to swing, continuing. Sakai shooting for the end zone. That is a goal on double game point. Yuri Fuji on that far sideline, straight up the line for Shinshu Loose to take the victory.
Just like they've done all game long, textbook dump swing offense, opening the window on the break side, the structure powering them through on double game point. And Shinshu Loose, after starting the day in a slightly precarious position, sitting in 4th place, they've now beaten one of the top-ranked teams in their pool. And there's a whole lot of chaos now at the top of Pool D.
So, double game point, lead trading back and forth all game. Shinshu Loose will win by 1. And their star players on really both teams, both on offense and on defense, working so hard to make it happen. Who were some of those that really stood out to you, Ian?
Kyra Tuvia was a force all game for Pilipinas downfield. Christian Guerrero used his throws quite well, and we saw a look there at Honda's fantastic layout. He finished the game with 3 goals and 4 assists, an offensive force to be reckoned with. An unfortunate turn of events on that defensive block attempt there, but I would say Honda and Tuvia, the MVPs for both squads.
Exciting ultimate here at the WFDF 2018 World Ultimate Club Championships. In pool play, be sure to log on to WFDF.org for highlights. For Ian Toner, I'm Emmy Fitzgerald. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Catch it early. Help us teach kids about cancer symptoms through Ultimate Frisbee clinics. Join us and speak up.